I tried Stoic habits for 7 days. And this happened, I was drowning. Seriously. Drowning in notifications, never-ending to-do lists, and this constant hum of anxiety that I was always behind. My focus was completely shot. My days were just a blur of reacting to things, and my mind was never quiet. I was irritable, I was exhausted, and if I'm being honest, I was burning out from the sheer weight of modern life. I knew something had to give, but all the usual advice, get another app, find a new productivity hack, just hustle harder, felt like trying to fix a sinking ship by adding more water. So I decided to try something different, an experiment. I turned to a 2,000-year-old philosophy, one that was stress-tested by actual emperors, playwrights, and slaves. I picked 10 simple, practical habits from the ancient Stoics and committed to trying them for 1 week. I just wanted to know, could this ancient wisdom actually help with modern problems? And what started as a little challenge completely changed my focus and my sense of calm in a way I truly did not see coming. Here's what happened. Section 1. The goal and the rules. The before. All right, before we get into the day-by-day, let me set the stage. My goal here wasn't to become some stone-faced, emotionless robot. That's the biggest misconception about Stoicism. The real goal was to stop living in reaction mode, to get back some inner control in a world that feels like it's spinning faster and faster. It reminds me of what Marcus Aurelius said. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. I wanted to find that strength. My experiment was built on 10 specific habits I chose because they seemed simple and practical. I didn't need a philosophy degree. I just needed to be willing to try. Here were my rules for the week. 1. Read a Stoic quote each morning. To start the day with a resilient mindset. 2. Morning. Journaling. A few minutes to untangle my thoughts and set an intention. 3. Practice gratitude. To switch my focus from what I lack to what I have. Set a daily intention. To consciously decide what kind of person I wanted to be that day. Take a walk. The Stoics knew a healthy mind and a healthy body are linked, so a daily walk for reflection was non-negotiable. Pause before reacting. When something triggered me, I had to create a little space between the event and my response. 7. Practice empathy and kindness. To make a real effort to treat people with respect, no matter what. 8. Limit complaints. To catch myself before complaining or spiraling into negativity and reframe it. 9. Evening reflection. Inspired by Seneca, I'd review my day and ask, what went well? What could I do better? 10. Read a Stoic text. Just 5 minutes a day reading directly from the masters. With the rules set, I braced myself. I was skeptical and a little intimidated, but honestly, I was desperate enough for a change to give it a real shot. Section 2. Days 1 to 3. The struggle. The first few days were awkward. This new routine felt clunky and totally unnatural, like wearing shoes that don't quite fit. Waking up to read a quote from a Roman emperor felt completely disconnected from the reality of my exploding inbox. And the morning journaling was the worst. Just staring at a blank page, feeling this pressure to write something deep, but my mind was just a mess of anxiety and to-do lists. It felt more like a chore than a moment of clarity. And trying to limit complaints? That was a wake-up call. I had no idea how much of my inner monologue and my conversations was just negative. Ugh, this meeting. I'm so exhausted. The traffic is awful. Trying to catch every single one of those thoughts was exhausting. It felt like I was playing mental whack-a-mole, and I was definitely losing. But the hardest one by far was the pause and breathe. On day 2, I got a really frustrating email from a coworker. My normal, pre-Stoic reaction? Fire back a snarky, passive-aggressive reply almost instantly. But the new rule said I had to pause. So I did. I just sat there, heart pounding, my fingers twitching over the keyboard. That pause felt like an eternity of swallowing rage. I didn't nail it. I still felt the anger and the injustice. My reply was more neutral, sure, but the storm inside was still raging. The evening reflection just made me feel worse. My journal from those first nights was basically a list of my failures. Complained about the coffee, got angry in traffic, didn't really pause, just fumed in silence. By the end of day 3, I was so discouraged. I wasn't feeling calmer or more in control. I just felt more aware of how reactive and unfocused I was, and that awareness was painful. I seriously thought about quitting. Section 3, days 4 to 5, the shift. Then on day 4, something changed. It wasn't some huge lightning bolt moment. It was quiet. I woke up and for the first time, I didn't instinctively grab my phone. Instead, I picked up my book of quotes and read one from Epictetus. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And for the first time, that didn't sound like a cliche. It sounded like an instruction manual. Later that morning, another stressful email. Same trigger, but this time, something felt different. Instead of just sitting there and fuming, I remembered another one of my new habits. Take a walk. So I did. I got up and walked outside. As I walked, I just focused on my breathing. I wasn't trying to solve the problem in my head, just giving it space. When I got back to my desk 15 minutes later, the emotional heat was gone. I could see the situation for what it was. A simple disagreement, not some personal attack. And I wrote a calm, clear, helpful reply. It was a tiny win, but it felt huge. I had gone from reacting to responding. That's when all the habits started to click together. Not as a checklist, but as a system. The morning journal became a place to plan how I'd handle my daily intention, like be more patient. The gratitude practice made it harder to complain because I was actively looking for good things. The outside world didn't get any quieter, but my inside world was. I was starting to get it. Tranquility isn't about finding a quiet place, it's about building a quiet mind. Mid-roll CTA. By the way, if you're finding this interesting and thinking about how you could try this yourself, I've put the full list of all 10 habits and some of the resources I use down in the description. It's been genuinely wild to see how these small daily actions build on each other. Section 4, days 6 to 7, the integration. The last 2 days felt like I was finally finding a groove. The habits weren't forced anymore. Waking up for that quiet time in the morning stopped feeling like a chore and started feeling like a gift I was giving myself. That daily walk became my absolute non-negotiable mental reset button. On day 6, I had a meeting that I was really dreading. Normally, I'd have spent the whole morning anxious about it. This time, I used my journal session to prep my mind. I wrote down what I could control, my prep, my attitude, and what I couldn't, how other people react, the outcome. This is the core of Stoicism, the dichotomy of control. Just separating those two things took all the power out of the anxiety. I walked into that meeting feeling grounded and focused instead of fearful. The empathy practice also started feeling more natural. On day 7, someone cut me off in traffic. Old me would have been instantly furious. The new Stoic in training me had a different thought. Maybe they're rushing to the hospital. Maybe they're just having a horrible day. I have no idea what their story is, so why let my made-up negative version of it ruin my own peace? I just let it go. It wasn't weakness, it was protecting my own energy. By the end of that 7th day, the constant chatter in my head had finally quieted down. It wasn't gone, but it was more like background noise that I could choose to tune out. I felt less like a victim of my own life and more like the pilot of my own mind. Section 5. The transformation and takeaways. The after. So what really changed after 7 days? Let's look at the before and after. A week ago, my average screen time was over 5 hours a day. My baseline stress was a constant 8 out of 10. Today, my screen time is down by almost 2 hours, and my stress is hanging out at a 3. But the real change isn't in the numbers. The biggest transformation was that shift from being constantly reactive to mindfully responsive. It feels like I've installed a crucial buffer between the world and my emotions. Out of the 10 habits, 3 had the biggest impact on me. 1. The pause. This was the most powerful tool for the heat of the moment. It's like an emergency brake for an emotional hijack. Just taking 3 seconds before you speak or type changes everything. It gives your rational brain a chance to catch up with your feelings. 2. The evening reflection. This created an amazing feedback loop for getting better. By looking back on the day without judgment, I could see where I messed up and where I did well. It made the next day's efforts smarter and more focused. Every day became a lesson. 3. Focusing on what I can control. This wasn't just one habit, it was the idea behind all of them. Truly internalizing this is the best defense against anxiety. So much of my stress came from things I had zero power over. Letting that go was incredibly freeing. The biggest lesson I learned wasn't about adding more rules and hacks to my life. It was about subtracting the noise. Stoicism isn't about bearing your emotions. It's about having the wisdom to not create useless, painful emotions in the first place. It's a practical operating system for a high-stress world. This week-long experiment started as a last-ditch effort to stop feeling so overwhelmed. It ended up being one of the most transformative weeks of my life. I'm not a perfect Stoic, not even close. But now I have a toolkit of strategies that I know, from my own experience, actually work. Life is still going to be full of stressful emails, annoying meetings, and things going wrong. That's never going to change. But what has changed is my ability to meet all of that with a little more calm and a little more clarity. I feel like I found that strength Marcus Aurelius was talking about, and it was right here the whole time. If you're feeling overwhelmed by all the noise of modern life, I honestly can't recommend trying something like this enough. You don't have to do it all at once. Just start small. I've listed all 10 habits in the description below if you want to give it a shot. Let me know in the comments which one you'd start with first. I'm genuinely curious to hear. And if you enjoyed this little experiment, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into living a better, more intentional life. Thanks for watching.